of you. So in the last class we have completed the constitutional development of India. Okay, today I am going to discuss a very new topic. So please join us as soon as possible. Very good morning to all of you. Rafiq, Sonali, Iram, Vimal, Saris, Hers, Chaudhry Zafar Ali, Priya, Munir, Salma, Umra, Shilpa. Good morning to all of you. Today I am going to discuss a very new topic. Okay, and the topic is emergence of Gandhi. Okay, the topic is emergence of Gandhi in Indian politics. Okay, in Indian politics and his ideology. Okay, emergence of Gandhi in Indian politics. In Indian politics and his ideology of Satyagraha, Ahimsa. Okay, and his ideology. This is our topic. Okay, and his ideology. In this topic we will cover, apart from his ideology and his emergence, we will also cover the movement. Okay, the movement which was started in India under him. Okay, so emergence of Gandhi, okay, in Indian politics and his ideology. Okay, apart from ideology, we will discuss all those movements which were started by Mahatma Gandhi in India, and we all know that with his entry in Indian political scene, the Indian national movement entered in third and final phase, which is also known as Gandhian phase of national movement. Okay, and during that phase, complete independence or Purna Swaraj became the ultimate goal of national movement. Okay, so we'll cover all those things, all the things which are related to Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, we all know he started his political career in South Africa. He started his movement in South Africa. Okay, later he came to India in 1915. Okay, from 1893 to 1914. Okay, this period of Mahatma Gandhi was in South Africa, and in South Africa he launched movement against Disfranchise Act, against Registration Act. Okay, and other poll tax on other and against many racial discrimination policies adopted by the South African government. Okay, so first we will start the journey of Mahatma Gandhi in South Africa. Okay, in 1914 till 1914. Okay, and after in 1915 he visited India. He came, finally he left South Africa and came to India. Okay, and launched the idea of Satyagraha. Okay, and finally under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi we got our independence. Okay, so the topic is the emergence of Gandhi, okay, in Indian politics and his ideology. Apart from his ideology, we will also discuss, okay, the movement. Okay, the movement under Mahatma Gandhi. We have seen a large number of movement was started by Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, how that movement, how all the movement which was started by Mahatma Gandhi was ultimately leads the path of independence. Okay, now, so good morning to all of you, those who are joining us. Now, the first is, look, the year of 1917-18. Okay, this was during this period Mahatma Gandhi emerged on the political scene of India, okay, during 1917 and 1918, okay. What happened? The Gandhi, we all know Gandhi ji was in South Africa, okay. So Gandhi emerged on Indian political scene during 1917 and 1918, okay, 1718, and he transformed the ideology and range of national movement, okay, range of national movement, okay. So Gandhi emerged on the political scene of India during 1917 and 1918, this was the period, and transformed the ideology and ranges of national movement, okay. Now with his entry, what happened? With his entry, the national movement of India entered in the third and final phase, which is also known as the phase of mass mobilization, okay, mass mobilization, or popularly known as Gandhian phase. It is, okay, with his entry in national movement, with his entry in Indian politics, what happened? The national movement entered in third and final phase, okay, which is also known as the phase of mass mobilization, okay, the phase of mass movement, okay, and also popularly known as Gandhian phase. We all know there are three phases in national movement. Okay, we all know this national movement begins after the formation of Indian National Congress in 1885, okay, and after the formation of 1885, national movement started, means the freedom movement started, okay. This national movement is divided into three phases, okay, three phases. First phase, it was the phase between 1885 to 1905, okay. This phase is called the moderate phase of national movement, okay, moderate phase, okay. And this phase is also known as triple P phase: pray, petition, and propaganda, okay. These tools were used by the leader of this phase, okay. And in this phase we have demanded constitutional development, okay. We have not the leader of this phase were not, they had not demanded freedom, okay. They demanded constitutional development in India. They demanded the Indianization of services, okay. They demanded dominion status, okay. In between 1905 to 1917, this was the second phase, okay, second phase. And this phase is also known as the phase of extremist phase, okay. And in this phase we have talked about Swaraj, okay, Swaraj. And this phase is also known as the phase of Lal, Bal and Pal. Okay, Lal, Bal, Pal phase, and Swaraj was the goal we have decided. But how to attain this Swaraj? Okay, the Swaraj, the leaders of this phase decided to fought. Okay, they decided to get Swaraj with the help of movement, not by begging. Okay, not by the methods of prayer, petition and propaganda, but the phase, second phase, which was known as the extremist phase. Okay, in this phase, the leaders of the national movement, they changed their goal for dominion state to Swaraj, and they decided to fight for Swaraj. Okay, now the third phase, which was began in 1917, after 1917, okay, and continued till 1947. This phase is known as Gandhian phase. Okay, the Gandhian phase. Okay, and this phase is also known as the phase of mass mobilization. Okay, mass mobilization or mass movement. Okay, so with the entry of Mahatma Gandhi, okay, with the entry of Mahatma Gandhi national movement, okay, Indian national movement entered in the third phase. Okay, and during this phase, okay, we have changed our goal from Swaraj to complete independence or Purna Swaraj. Complete independence or Purna Swaraj. So this is very important. This is very important. With the entry of Mahatma Gandhi in national movement, okay, the national movement, okay, the national movement was changed into mass movement, and also the goal which was earlier, which in the phase of extremist in the phase of extremist leaders, or the in the second phase, our main objective was to attain Swaraj, but now this goal was also changed to complete independence. Complete independence or Purna Swaraj. Okay, I hope it is clear to all of you. So now, so with the entry of Mahatma Gandhi in national movement, the Indian national movement entered in the third phase. Okay, the phase of mass mobilization, the phase of mass mobilization, the phase of mass movement. Okay, and in this phase, the goal was also changed. Okay, the goal of national movement was also changed. Okay, and the goal, Gandhiji and under Gandhiji and other leaders or the followers of Mahatma Gandhi, we decided to fight for complete independence. Okay, I hope it is clear now. Look, the period of Gandhian activities, okay, the period of Gandhian activities, the period of Gandhian activities, okay, before 1920. Look, the period of Gandhian activities before 1920 is termed as formative phase. Okay, formative phase. Look, this phase includes his movement in South Africa. Okay, we all know, we will discuss in later in detail, this formative phase. The period, we all know, 1920 is very important year because this was the year when Gandhiji started the first mass movement called civil disobedience, non-cooperation movement. Okay, this is the watermark year in the history of India because in 1920 Gandhiji started non-cooperation movement, which was the first mass movement of India. Okay, before that, this 1920, Gandhiji was involved in many satyagraha. Okay, and his field of action was not confined to India only, but also outside. He started his political career as a political leader. He started his political activity in South Africa. Okay, later he came to India. Okay, and started regional movement. And after 1920, what happened? The entire national movement of India fall in the hand of Mahatma Gandhi, and from 1920 to 1949, the entire phase, it witnessed the rise of Mahatma Gandhi as a leader, as an organizer, as a fundraiser, as a social activist, as an economist, okay, educationist also. So the period of Gandhian activity before 1920 is termed as formative phase or formative stage of Gandhi. Okay, it includes his movement in South Africa, satyagraha in South Africa. Okay, in South Africa, he fought against the racial discrimination practiced by the white government of South Africa against the Indians. Okay, now, and apart from this racial discrimination movement against racial discrimination, he also started regional movement in India. Okay, like the Champaran movement. Okay, Ahmedabad mill workers movement satyagraha, Ahmedabad satyagraha, Kheda satyagraha, and apart from these three regional movement, he also involved in the first nationwide movement, and that was the movement against Rowlatt Act. Okay, look here, after 1920, before 1920, Mahatma Gandhi was involved in many movements. Okay, and these movements were, okay, the movement against racial discrimination in South Africa. Okay, and apart from that, he also launched regional movement like Champaran Satyagraha, Ahmedabad Satyagraha, Kheda Satyagraha. What is Satyagraha? We will discuss later. Okay, these were the regional movement, and the movement against Rowlatt Act was the first nationwide movement of Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, so these movements were the movement prior to 1920, and this phase is called formative phase or formative stage of Mahatma Gandhi. Formative stage of the activities of Mahatma Gandhi. And during this phase, what happened? He tried to understand the socio-political and economic condition of India. What he did? During this phase is very important. The formative phase of activity of Mahatma Gandhi is very important because during this phase he tried to understand the socio-political and economic condition of India. Okay, so we will discuss everything, how he visited South Africa as a lawyer in connection with a legal case. He gone there for 1 year, but stayed there for 20 years. Okay, why he stayed there? What he did in South Africa? We will discuss in detail. Okay, this is very important for pre point of view, and apart from pre point of view, this is very important for because it will give you a proper knowledge about Mahatma Gandhi, his ideology, okay, his way of work, satyagraha, ahimsa, his view on decentralization, his views on religion, his views on democratic politics, okay, his views on women. We will discuss each and everything because this is very important for not only pre but also it will help you in essay, and apart from that, without knowing the ideas, the ideology of Mahatma Gandhi, it is very difficult to know Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, apart from that, we will also discuss the each and every movement started by Mahatma Gandhi, not in South Africa but also in India. Okay, South African movement is important only for pre-examination, but the movement organized by Mahatma Gandhi in India, okay, that is very important because lot of questions can be asked, and UPSC has asked from this section in preliminary examination as well as in mains examination. Okay, to know about the Gandhian ideology is very helpful in write the answers of essay. Okay, so because Gandhiji was not only a political leader, he was a great organizer, he was a great philosopher, he was a great fundraiser, okay, he was a great educationist, and we all know one of his idea of education, okay, which was proposed by, he wrote a lot of articles, number of articles in newspaper, okay, and on the basis of the idea given by Mahatma Gandhi, a program for education, a program was adopted. I want to know the program which was related to education. I want answer from all of you. Please tell me the program or the yojana which was based on yojana which was related to education, and it was based on the writings, or it was based on the views of Mahatma Gandhi, because Mahatma Gandhi wrote lot of articles on in his newspaper regarding education. I want answer from all of you. What was the yojana or what was the plan which was related to education, and it was based on the idea of education of Mahatma Gandhi? I want answer from all of you. I want answer from all of you. What was the yojana or plan of education which was based on the idea of education of Mahatma Gandhi? Because Mahatma Gandhi wrote a lot of articles in his paper Harijan, and on the basis of that a plan was formulated for education. I want answer from all of you. So this is what I want answer from all of you. What was the plan of education formulated or based on the idea of education of Mahatma Gandhi? Because we have discussed all the programs, yojanas related to education before independence. So I want answer from all of you. Which was the education policy based on the idea of Mahatma Gandhi? Very good. Sarli, Vardha scheme, 1937. Okay. It was given by Dr. Zakir Hussain and it was based on the idea of Mahatma Gandhi. Okay. The idea of Mahatma Gandhi, which was Gandhiji wrote a number of articles in his paper Harijan regarding education, and on the basis of that articles in 1937 Vardha Yojana was proposed by Dr. Zakir Hussain. Okay, Vardha Yojana of education. Okay, I hope it is clear. Yes, 1937 we have discussed about that. Okay, so Gandhiji was not only a political, he was not only a political leader, he was a great organizer, he was great fundraiser. Okay, he was social reformer. We will discuss how he involved himself in development or upliftment of Harijan. Okay, he gave the title, the Harijan word was coined by Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, how he that toured India to uplift the condition of Harijan. We will discuss about that. Okay, he was also a philosopher. Okay, and his idea on the field of decentralization, economic decentralization, political decentralization. Okay, Gramodaya, Gram Swaraj is still very significant. Okay, we will discuss everything. Now, Gandhi's early life of Mahatma Gandhi. We all know 2nd October 1869. Early life of Mahatma Gandhi. 2nd October 1869. October 1869. This was the year and date of the birth of Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, in Kathiawar district of Gujarat. Okay, and he was from Vaisya family. Okay, in 1881. Okay, in 1881 he went to London for study law. In 1881 he went to London to study law, and after 10 years, means 1891, he returned to India as a young barrister and started his legal career profession in Bombay, but failed to establish himself as a lawyer. And in 1893, this is very important year, he traveled to South Africa. In 1893, this is very important year. In 1893, he traveled to South Africa in connection with a legal case. In connection with a legal case of Abdullah and Company. Okay, Dada Abdullah and Company, of Dada Abdullah and Company. So in 1881 he went to London to study law, and after 10 years he returned. Okay, and he started his professional career as a lawyer in Bombay, but failed to establish himself as a lawyer. In 1893, this is a very important year. What happened? He traveled to South Africa. And why he traveled? Because there was some legal cases was there of Dada Abdullah and his company. He went there for 1 year. The contract was for 1 year. His contract was for 1 year, but stayed there for the next 20 years. And this 20 years is very important in the history of India. Because this 20 year of staying in South Africa, okay, what we have seen, a new Gandhi. Gandhi went there as a barrister, but left his profession. Okay, left his profession. He went there and successfully fought. And the day when farewell, when the company gave farewell, because he was preparing himself to return India and he got farewell. Okay, Natal government passed a law. And that law, in the same night, he read about the, okay, Disfranchise Act. Okay, and that act changed everything. We will discuss about that. Okay, so what happened in 1893? He went South Africa for 1 year. Contract was made for 1 year. And he went there to, there was a legal case of Dada Abdullah and Company. Okay, he went there for 1 year contract, but stayed there for next 20 years. Okay, in this 20 years, he returned 2 times in India. He returned 2 times. First was in 1896. Okay, he returned India twicely. Twice he returned. Okay, in 1896 and in 1901. 1896 and 1901. This was the 2 breaks in which he returned India for a very short period. Okay, very short period he returned India. He went there in 1893 and stayed there till 1914. He went there for one year contract with Dada Abdullah and Company, but he stayed there for the next 20 years. In between these 20 years, he returned 2 times. First in 1896 and second is 1901. Okay, we will discuss what happened in 1901 and what happened in 1896. Okay, I hope it is clear. Now, Indians in South Africa. Indians in South Africa. Indians in South Africa. Look, Mahatma Gandhi went there and he was the first barrister who landed on the soil of South Africa. Okay, and there were a large number of Indians there in South Africa, and it is believed that about 2 lakh people, 2 lakh Indians were there in South Africa, and most of them were laborers. Okay, they were laborers, and some of Indians were merchants and traders. Most of them were laborers. Okay, and the Indians were facing racial discrimination. They were not allowed. They were not allowed to vote. They were not allowed to move on footpath. They were not allowed to enter in hotels and restaurants. Okay, they were not allowed to travel They were not allowed to travel in first and second class. So, and they had to pay poll tax. Poll tax was the tax which was imposed on laborers. And most of the laborers were okay, indentured laborers. And the labor had to pay a tax which was £2 yearly, which was known as poll tax. Okay, so there was a discrimination, racial discrimination in South Africa. 2 lakhs people were, 2 lakhs Indians were there. Most of them were laborers. Okay, and apart from laborers, there was handful of merchant and traders and their workers. Okay, and the Indians were racially discriminated in South Africa. They had no right to vote. Okay, they were not allowed to travel on the footpath. Hotels and restaurants were reserved for the white people, white Europeans. Okay, they were not allowed to move out from the area which was reserved for them. They were not allowed to move from the areas which was reserved for them. So the life was very difficult. Okay, and there was also a poll tax. Gandhi, he went there as a barrister. He was the first English educated Indian visited South Africa. Gandhi himself was racially discriminated. Gandhi was also, he was humiliated by, he was once humiliated by, not once, he was humiliated many times by the white Europeans. And the first incidence of humiliation of Gandhi was when he was traveling from Durban to Pretoria. Okay, Durban to Pretoria. Okay, in 1893 he was traveling from Durban to Pretoria in first class. Okay, in first class. He had ticket of first class, but forcefully he had to vacate his seat for a white. And apart from that, when he resisted, he was thrown out from the compartment. This was the first incidence of racial humiliation of Mahatma Gandhi. Indians were facing there. 2 lakh Indians were there. And they were racially discriminated, humiliated by the white people. Okay, but the condition, Gandhiji, who was the first English educated Indian, when he was humiliated by the white, then what happened? Gandhiji decided to fight against. When he reached Pretoria, what he did? He invited the Indians. He invited the Indians, okay, and encouraged them to learn English. He encouraged them to organize themselves, and he encouraged them to fight against racial discrimination. Okay, racial discrimination. And the station which is where he was thrown out was Pietersmouthburg. Now Google that station and write down the station, which is very famous now. where he was thrown out from the compartment. It was Petersmouthburg. So write down, Google the name of station where he was thrown out when he was traveling from Durban to Pretoria. Okay. Now, he is there and organized a meeting. He called the meeting of Indians, and in that meeting, he encouraged the Indians to organize themselves. Okay. And he also encouraged to fight against the racial discrimination. Okay. Gandhiji also decided. Okay. Now, when he was in Pretoria, he read a news, and the news was related to disfranchised Indians, a bill, Natal government. He read a news of Natal government. Now, what happened? Natal government proposed a bill to disfranchise Indian. When he was in Pretoria, he read a news of Natal government. Natal government proposed a bill. Okay? Bill, and the purpose of this bill was to disfranchise the Indians. This bill was introduced in 1893. Okay? Now, after hearing the news, look, at this time, Gandhiji was preparing to leave South Africa. And in a farewell party, he read about this news. Okay? And the peoples and the Indians, those who were the merchants and the well-off Indian people in South Africa, requested Mahatma Gandhi to stay for some period more. They requested Mahatma Gandhi to cancel his return to India, to cancel his journey to India. Because they wanted, why they requested? They requested because they wanted the help of Mahatma Gandhi to organize themselves. They wanted to write a petition, and petition writing, and they were not familiar with writing of petitions to the government. So they requested the well-off Indians in South Africa and the other prominent Indians who were residing there. They requested Mahatma Gandhi to cancel his journey. They requested because they wanted the help of Mahatma Gandhi to organize themselves against the proposed disfranchise bill. Okay, this bill was proposed by Natal government. This is very important. Okay, and Gandhiji accepted the demands of the Indians and started movement. Okay, started movement. So look here, he went there for 1 year, and when he was preparing to return, suddenly Natal government introduced a bill, and the bill was related to disfranchise Indian. When Gandhi learned about the bill, And when the news published about this bill, the Indians who were residing there requested Mahatma Gandhi to stay for some time. Okay, Gandhi ji accepted, but that short period they demanded was extended to 20 years. And this 20 years was the period of movement of Mahatma Gandhi in South Africa against racial discrimination. I hope it is clear to all of you. Okay, so Gandhi's political career began on the night of that farewell in South Africa. 1893 was the year, because he went there for 1 year contract. And when the news published, the Indians requested Mahatma Gandhi to stay. Okay, the Indians requested Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, pleaded Mahatma Gandhi to stay on a little longer. Mahatma Gandhi accepted the demands, accepted, and now you can imagine, he was preparing to leave South Africa, but suddenly the Natal government proposed a bill, and Gandhi decided to cancel his return to India. Gandhiji cancelled his journey, and that cancellation that ticket cancellation was not for some short period of time, it was for 20 years. Okay, twice he visited India in 1896 and 1901, but most of the time he stayed there, organized Indians protest against the racial discrimination practiced there. Okay, now, so the Gandhiji decided to stay. Okay, and he started his movement. Now, Gandhi's movement in South Africa. Gandhi's political career in South Africa. The topic is Gandhian political career or political movement. Okay, Gandhi's political career in South Africa, we will divide it in two phases. The first phase is 1893 to 1906. This phase is called the first phase or moderate phase. Moderate phase. And the second phase was from 1906 to 1914. This phase is called the phase of civil disobedience movement or the phase of Satyagraha. The phase of Satyagraha. Okay, we will discuss the idea of Satyagraha. Okay, the phase of this phase is basically during this phase, Natal government passed a In 1893, Natal government passed Disfranchise Act. Okay, and during this phase in 1906, there is a province called Transvaal province. Okay, Transvaal province. This Transvaal province passed a bill and introduced a bill which was passed as an act, Asiatic Registration Act. Okay, Asiatic Registration. So this phase, the second phase, the first phase, during first phase, the Gandhian movement was against the Disfranchise Bill. Okay, Disfranchise Act or bill. Firstly, it was introduced as a bill, and this act was passed by Natal government. Okay. Apart from that, there are many other racial discriminatory laws were also there, but this phase was basically dedicated to, means during this phase the Gandhi's movement was against this Franchise Act which was passed by Natal government. There are many acts also which were against the Indian, which was against the Indians, and which was in favor of which was against the Indians, okay, and favored racial discrimination. Okay, in second phase, which begins in 1906 and continued till 1914, this phase begins with the act passed by Transvaal province or Transvaal government. Okay, the phase of civil disobedience. Okay, Transvaal government. The Transvaal government passed Asiatic Registration Act. Okay, against this act, Mahatma Gandhi started his civil disobedience movement or Satyagraha. Okay, remember one thing, this Asiatic Registration Act, against this act Mahatma Gandhi started Satyagraha. So Gandhiji started his Satyagraha in South Africa. The idea of Satyagraha was started by Mahatma Gandhi. The ideology of Satyagraha was, okay, this Satyagraha, the idea of Satyagraha was firstly used by Mahatma Gandhi against the Asiatic Registration Act of 1906. Okay. So I hope it is clear. This is very important. Okay, in which movement Mahatma Gandhi first time used the idea of Satyagraha. Okay. So in 1906 to 1914, what happened? This was the second phase. This phase is called the phase of Satyagraha or the phase of civil disobedience movement. Okay, this phase begins with the passage of Asiatic Registration Act 1906. Okay, 1906, and this act was passed by Transvaal government. Okay, this act was passed by Transvaal government, and this was the first act, okay, this was the first act against this act. Mahatma Gandhi launched Satyagraha. This is a question of pre. Okay, this is the question of pre. So these are the two phases in which Mahatma Gandhi, okay, launched his movement in South Africa. Okay, tomorrow we will discuss about these two phases and the ideas of Mahatma Gandhi, the ideas of Satyagraha, the ideas of non-cooperation, idea of Satyagraha, ahimsa, okay, and other things, other views, okay, ideas of Mahatma Gandhi on Gram Swaraj, idea of Mahatma Gandhi on education, idea of Mahatma Gandhi on women empowerment, idea of Mahatma Gandhi on village panchayat. Okay, tomorrow we will discuss about these things in detail. Okay, thank you and take care.